What if the answers you're searching for have already been written centuries ago? What if the clarity, peace, and purpose you're craving don't require more information, but a different lens to see life through? In this episode, we're exploring 8 timeless philosophies, ideas that have lasted through war, chaos, progress, and evolution, not because they're trendy, but because they're true. From ancient Stoicism to Eastern wisdom, these principles can shift how you handle pain, pressure, purpose, and even your own potential. You don't need a new life. You need a new perspective. And that starts right here. Philosophy 1. Amor Fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, not just tolerating it, but learning to fully, deeply embrace it. To look at every moment, even the painful ones, and say, this too is mine. The roots of Amor Fati. This idea comes from the ancient Stoics, people like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. And later, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche gave it powerful modern form. Nietzsche said, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different. Not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, but love it. It's one thing to endure difficulty. It's another to use it, to choose it, and to love what it makes of you." Why this changes everything. Most of us resist reality. We wish things were different. We argue with the past. We replay regrets endlessly. If only I had done this sooner. If only they hadn't left. If only I had made a different decision. But Amor Fati invites us to ask a radical question. What if everything that's happened is not in the way, but on the way? It's not naive optimism. It's fierce acceptance. It's taking everything life throws at you and building with it. Pain is fuel. The Stoics believed obstacles aren't setbacks, they're building blocks. Not, this ruined me, but, this revealed me. Not, this is the end, but, this is the forge. Every painful moment, every unexpected loss, every plan that fell apart, it becomes the raw material for becoming stronger, clearer, deeper. Not everything happens for a reason, but everything can be given reason. That's what Amor Fati offers. Real life Amor Fati. You miss an opportunity. You lose your job. You go through heartbreak. Instead of breaking down, you breathe, and you say, this moment will shape me. I'll turn this into something useful. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. That's not giving up. That's rising differently. It's shifting from asking, why is this happening to me? How is this happening for me? How to practice Amor Fati. 1. Replace why me with why not me. Instead of feeling cursed, consider that this moment is part of your path. Not a mistake, but a message. 2. Turn every obstacle into a tool. Ask, what can I learn from this? What strength is being developed in me right now? 3. Don't wait for hindsight to be grateful. Practice gratitude for the process, even while you're still in the storm. You don't have to love the pain, but you can love who it's helping you become. 4. Visualize challenges before they happen. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, mentally preparing for difficulty, not to attract it but to reduce fear and increase resilience. Final reflection. Amor Fati doesn't ask you to pretend things don't hurt. It asks you to honor that hurt. Then use it. To see your scars not as shameful, but sacred. To accept your story, every page, even the hard chapters. And to say, I don't want to erase any of it, because this is what shaped me. You may not have chosen everything in your life, but you can choose what you do with it. That's the difference between surviving and becoming. So the next time life surprises you, with challenge, failure, loss, or chaos, pause, breathe, and whisper to yourself, Amor Fati, I love my fate, because this is how I rise. Philosophy 2. Memento Mori, a Latin phrase meaning remember you must die. Sounds dark at first, doesn't it? But for centuries this phrase has been used, not to create fear, but to bring people back to what really matters. To awaken, to humble, to focus. Where it comes from. The phrase Memento Mori dates back to ancient Rome. In Roman times, a victorious general would return from battle. Crowds would cheer. People would celebrate. And behind that general, a servant would whisper in his ear, Memento Mori. Remember, you are mortal. No matter the glory, no matter the power. One truth always remained. You too will die. The Stoics embraced this idea not to dwell in dread, but to strip away illusion. To remind us, time is short, ego is fragile, and what we do now matters. The power of mortality. Most people avoid thinking about death. We pretend it's far away. We keep ourselves distracted. We say things like, I'll start that project someday. I'll forgive them later. I'll slow down once I'm successful. But what if there's no later? What if the urgency you're waiting to feel is already here? Memento Mori isn't about fearing death. It's about honoring life. What this changes: when you remember death, you live differently. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You stop chasing approval that doesn't last. You stop waiting to be ready. And instead, you speak your truth. You say what needs to be said. You show up fully, knowing that each moment is not guaranteed. This is the mindset of people who live with purpose. Not because they're reckless, but because they're awake. How Memento Mori frees you. You begin to realize that fight with a loved one, not worth holding on to. That project you've been postponing, now is the time. That dream you've buried under fear, start digging. Because time is not promised. Not for you. Not for me. And when you accept that fully, not in fear but in clarity, you become dangerous. In the best way. Dangerous to excuses, to procrastination, to regret. How to practice Memento Mori. 1. Start the day by remembering it could be your last. Not to be morbid, but to be mindful. Ask, if this were the final page, how would I want to write it? 2. Keep a reminder nearby. A ring, a bracelet, a background on your phone. Something that brings you back to the present. 3. Forgive faster. Grudges are heavy. Life is short. Let it go. 4. Do the thing you keep putting off. You don't have to finish it all today. But you can begin, while you still can. Final reflection. Memento Mori isn't about death. It's about depth. It's about living with the awareness that everything is temporary. And because of that, everything is precious. Every laugh, every touch, every sunrise, every goodbye. When you live with death in mind, you waste less. You rush less. You love more. So if there's something on your heart right now, say it. Write it. Start it. Forgive it. Because this life is not a draft. This moment is not a rehearsal. You only get one shot at being fully here. So breathe it in. Feel the urgency. And let the reminder of death be the beginning of how you choose to live. Memento Mori. Remember you must die. And because of that, remember to truly live. Philosophy 3. Wu Wei, a principle from ancient Chinese philosophy, rooted in Taoism. It's often translated as effortless action or non-doing. But don't let that confuse you. Wu Wei doesn't mean laziness, passivity, or giving up. It means alignment, harmony, flow, doing without force, acting without resistance, moving with life, instead of always pushing against it. The wisdom of the Tao. In Taoist thought, the universe has a natural rhythm. The Tao the way. The rivers flow. The seasons change. The trees grow. All without stress, without ego, without overthinking. And we, as humans, are meant to live in sync with that same rhythm. But we often don't. We overplan. We overcontrol. We grind against the grain of life, believing that more effort means more results. Wu Wei says, what if the answer isn't more force, but less friction? What it looks like in practice. Imagine a skilled archer. If they try too hard to control every breath, every twitch, every heartbeat, they miss. But when they relax into their training, focus without forcing, the arrow flies true. That's Wu Wei. It's the writer who finally lets go and the words flow. The athlete who enters the zone. The leader who inspires not by commanding, but by being. It's the sweet spot between effort and surrender. Why Wu Wei is so powerful. In a world obsessed with hustle, Wu Wei feels almost rebellious. We're told to fight, to grind, to control every outcome. But that mindset often leads to burnout, tension, and resistance. Wu Wei says, what if you trusted more? What if you allowed things to unfold? What if you did less, but with more presence? It doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your action is rooted in clarity, not ego. Flow, not fear. How Wu Wei shows up in your life. You've likely already experienced it even if you didn't know the name. That moment when conversation flows effortlessly. That decision that just feels right and works. That project that finishes itself because you were so immersed. You weren't trying to impress. You weren't overthinking. You were just present. That's the essence of Wu Wei. How to practice Wu Wei. 1. Start with stillness. Create space to hear the quiet yes inside you. Meditate. Or breathe. Let clarity rise naturally. 2. Act from alignment, not anxiety. Ask, am I forcing this, or flowing with it? Not every action needs to be a battle. 3. Let go of over-control. You can influence outcomes, but you don't have to control every step. Sometimes surrender is the wisest move. 4. Observe nature. Watch how trees sway, how rivers bend, how birds fly. Let their ease remind you what effortless presence looks like. Final reflection. Wu Wei doesn't ask you to do nothing. It asks you to do what's needed and nothing more. To let the moment guide you. To trust that life is not something to be conquered, but something to cooperate with. You're not here to fight every step. You're here to find the current beneath your feet and ride it. Because when you stop trying to force your way through everything, you open up to a deeper power. One that's always been there, waiting for you to let go. Wu Wei. Effortless action. Flow without force. Live, in rhythm. Philosophy 4. The Middle Way, an ancient concept from Buddhist philosophy, which teaches that balance, not extremes, leads to freedom. Not indulgence. Not deprivation. Not all or nothing. But wisdom in the middle. The origin of the Middle Way. The Middle Way was taught by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, after years of living both as a wealthy prince and then as a starving ascetic. He discovered that neither extreme brought him peace. One offered comfort but no depth. The other offered discipline but no clarity. So he walked a new path, not of avoidance, not of obsession, but of balance. And that became the core of Buddhist thought. Avoid both self-indulgence and self-mortification. Walk the path in between. The Buddha. Why extremes tempt us. In modern life we're drawn to extremes. Work hard, or do nothing. Say yes to everything, or shut the world out. Live with full discipline, or fall into chaos. It's easier to swing from one end to the other than to hold steady in the middle. But here's the truth. Balance takes strength. Balance takes awareness. Balance takes maturity. The middle way isn't boring. It's liberating. Because you no longer live at the mercy of emotional swings or black and white thinking. You walk steady, centered, calm. What the middle way looks like. You don't overwork, but you don't procrastinate either. You don't binge, but you don't restrict to punishment. You don't seek perfection, but you don't stop trying. You learn to recognize when effort becomes force, when discipline turns to self-denial, when freedom becomes escapism, and then you adjust. That's wisdom in motion. That's the middle way. Why balance is power. We often think of balance as less ambition, less intensity, less success. But it's actually the opposite. Balance creates sustainability. Anyone can sprint for a day. But balance allows you to keep going for a lifetime. It's how you protect your mental health, how you build meaningful relationships, how you grow without burning out. The middle way doesn't say don't care. It says, care without clinging, strive without suffering, act without attachment. How to practice the middle way. 1. Notice your swings. Where in your life do you bounce between extremes? Observe without judgment. 2. Ask, what would balance look like here? Not compromise, not passivity, but intelligent, thoughtful action that honors both effort and ease. 3. Drop the all-or-nothing mindset. You don't have to meditate for an hour, start with 5 minutes. You don't have to overhaul your diet, make one mindful meal. Consistency to intensity. 4. Rest as much as you push. Your value isn't tied to exhaustion. Pace yourself. Respect your energy. Final reflection. The middle way isn't about doing less. It's about doing what lasts. It's the path of grace, of strength without strain, of action without obsession. It teaches you to stop swinging like a pendulum and start walking with calm, steady steps. So when the world pulls you to extremes, when your mind says all or nothing, pause, breathe, and return to center. Because peace isn't found on the edges. It's waiting for you in the middle way. Not too much, not too little, just enough to keep you whole. Philosophy 5. Antifragility, the idea that some things don't just survive chaos. They actually get stronger because of it. Not resilient, not unbreakable, but something more powerful than both. Systems and people that benefit from disorder. The origin of antifragility. The term antifragile was introduced by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, a modern philosopher and risk analyst known for his work on uncertainty and unpredictability. He observed that in nature, in markets, in biology, and in us, some things get better when stressed, shocked, or challenged. Like your muscles, You lift weights, they tear, they rebuild stronger. Stress is not the enemy, it's the stimulus. Antifragility is the opposite of fragility. Fragile things break under pressure. Antifragile things grow from it. Why this shifts everything. Most of us are taught to avoid risk, avoid failure, avoid discomfort. To play it safe. Stay in control. Stay within limits. But life doesn't work like that. Life is unpredictable. Life throws curveballs. And the goal isn't to avoid all difficulty. It's to become someone who benefits from it. That's the power of being anti-fragile. You don't fear the unexpected. You welcome it. You use the fire to forge. You use pressure to adapt. You use pain to sharpen. The anti-fragile mindset. When something goes wrong, most people ask, how do I survive this? The anti-fragile person asks, how can I use this to become even better? They treat every failure as information, every rejection as redirection, every setback as strength training. They don't just bounce back, they bounce forward. And the more chaos they face, the more confidence they gain. Examples of anti-fragility. A startup that iterates through failures until it finds product-market fit. A fighter who learns more from a loss than from a dozen easy wins. A creator who faces criticism, refines their craft, and builds a stronger voice. A person who's been broken, but rebuilds themselves wiser, kinder, tougher. Anti-fragility is not a trait you're born with. It's a capacity you develop. Through exposure. Through recovery. Through choosing growth over victimhood. How to cultivate anti-fragility. 1. Expose yourself to controlled stress. Whether it's cold showers, public speaking, or trying something new. Train yourself to become comfortable in discomfort. 2. Run toward what scares you, in small doses. Fear is a compass. What challenges you often changes you. 3. Debrief every failure. Ask, what did this teach me? What would I do differently next time? 4. Build systems, not just goals. When life shakes things up, systems adapt. Goals collapse. Final reflection. Being anti-fragile doesn't mean you never fall. It means you always rise stronger. You embrace adversity as your ally. You trust that pressure is a teacher, not a threat. And you begin to realize, your greatest growth won't come from what's easy. It will come from what tested you and didn't break you. So the next time life punches you in the gut, instead of asking, why me? What strength is being built in me right now? What version of me is being forged through this fire? That's the question that changes everything. Because in a fragile world, you can become anti-fragile, stronger, smarter, unshakable. Philosophy 6. Detachment, the art of holding life lightly. Not by letting go of everything, but by letting go of the need to control everything. To love without possession. To strive without obsession. To care without clinging. The true meaning of detachment. Let's be clear. Detachment is not indifference. It's not apathy. It's not pretending you don't care. True detachment is deep care, without fear. It's rooted in clarity, peace, and freedom. You still love. You still try. You still dream. But you no longer depend on outcomes for your inner peace. Where it comes from. Detachment is a central teaching in many traditions. Buddhism, Stoicism, Hinduism, Taoism, even early Christian mysticism. In Buddhism, attachment is seen as the root of suffering. We suffer not because things are painful, but because we cling to them even when they change, leave, or die. The Buddha taught, you can only lose what you cling to. And the Stoics agreed. They believed that peace comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling your response to it. Why we cling? We cling because we're afraid. Afraid of loss. Afraid of change. Afraid of emptiness. We hold too tightly to people, identities, careers, relationships, routines, believing that if we grip hard enough, they won't leave. But clinging doesn't bring safety. It brings suffering. Imagine holding sand in your palm. Squeeze too tightly, it slips through your fingers. Hold it gently, it stays. That's detachment. What detachment looks like. You love someone deeply, and still let them grow. You work hard for success, but aren't destroyed if it fails. You appreciate what you have, but know it's not who you are. You dream boldly, but don't tie your worth to results. Detachment creates space. Space for grace. Space for peace. Space for things to flow in and out without breaking you. How detachment empowers you. When you release control, you reclaim your energy. You stop forcing. You stop fearing. You stop chasing people, outcomes, and timelines that don't serve you. You begin to flow, not fight. You begin to trust, not grip. And most importantly, you begin to experience life as it is, not as you demand it to be. That's freedom. How to practice detachment. 1. Notice where you cling. Ask, where in my life am I gripping too tightly? Who or what am I afraid to lose? 2. Pause before reacting. When things don't go your way, take a breath. Respond from awareness, not attachment. 3. Replace control with curiosity. Instead of, this must go my way, try, let's see what this moment brings. 4. Say this simple mantra. I hold everything with open hands. Say it to yourself. Breathe it in. Live it out. Final reflection. You don't have to let go of everything to live in peace. You just have to let go of clinging. To hold things with love, but not with fear. To engage fully but not possessively. Because the more you hold on tightly, the more you live in fear of loss. But when you practice detachment, you realize you already have everything you need within. And from that space of quiet wholeness, you can love, build, create, and live, not from desperation, but from depth. Detachment, not disconnection, but freedom. Hold lightly, live fully. Philosophy 7. Presence, the art of being here, fully. Now, without drifting into the past, or chasing a future that hasn't happened yet. To be where your feet are. The illusion of time. We spend most of our lives somewhere else. Not physically but mentally. Replaying old conversations. Rehearsing future disasters. Regretting what's behind. Racing toward what's ahead. And in that constant motion, we miss the only moment we ever actually have. This one. Why presence is so hard. Presence sounds simple. But it's not easy. Our world rewards speed. Multitasking. Next. More. Faster. Now, stillness feels unproductive. Silence feels awkward. And pausing to notice a moment feels like a luxury. But here's the truth. Your life is not happening in the past you can't change. Your life is not waiting in the future you can't control. Your life is right now. And most of us are sleeping through it. Presence in ancient teachings. This idea is not new. In Buddhism, it's mindfulness. In Christianity, give us this day. In Taoism, flowing with the now. In Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius wrote, confine yourself to the present. The present moment is all we ever lose. And modern thinkers echo it. Eckhart Tolle wrote, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Presence isn't just poetic. It's practical. It reduces anxiety, deepens relationships, improves decision-making, and brings joy even in the smallest things. What presence looks like. Listening without thinking of what to say next. Drinking your coffee without scrolling. Feeling the sun without rushing past it. Noticing your breath without changing it. Being fully in the room, not just in your head. Presence is not a moment of perfection. It's a moment of attention. It's when your mind, your body, and your breath all arrive in the same place. What happens when you're present? When you practice presence, time slows down. Emotions become clearer. You stop reacting and start responding. You see what matters and what doesn't. You begin to experience life as it actually is, not just as a projection of your thoughts. You become more grounded, more grateful, more alive. How to practice presence. 1. Use your senses. Ask, what do I see, hear, smell, feel, taste? Come back to your body, it's always in the present. 2. Breathe consciously. The breath is a built-in anchor. Even one slow inhale brings you home. 3. Name the moment. This is me standing in line. This is me feeling anxious. This is me washing the dishes. Simple. Grounding. True. 4. Create pause pockets. 5-minute breaks throughout the day to sit, breathe, and just be. No input. No outcome. Just presence. Final reflection. Presence doesn't require a silent retreat, or a perfect life, or a peaceful mind. It only requires one thing. Willingness to come back. Again and again. Back to your breath. Back to this step. Back to this word. Back to this life. Because while you're chasing what's next, you're missing what is. And what is enough. So today try this. Slow down. Look up. Feel your feet on the floor. And remember, be where your feet are. That's where life lives. Philosophy 8. Enough. A word so simple, and yet so powerful. A quiet philosophy that asks one essential question. What if this is already enough? The endless chase. We live in a culture addicted to more. More money. More success. More beauty. more validation, more followers, more productivity, more. But here's the problem. More has no finish line. Every time you reach the next goal, it moves. Every time you achieve something, there's something else to chase. And without knowing it, you end up in a race you never meant to run. What enough really means. Contentment doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you stop growing, dreaming, or evolving. It simply means you stop delaying your peace. You stop tying your happiness to a future version of yourself. You stop believing that you'll only feel worthy when you get there. Enough is not a limit. It's a declaration of freedom. It says, I can still grow, but I no longer need to prove I'm worth loving. Wisdom from the ancients. The idea of enough appears across nearly every ancient philosophy. In Stoicism, Seneca wrote, being poor is not having too little but wanting more. In Taoism, the Tao Te Ching reminds us, he who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. In Buddhism, contentment is one of the highest forms of wealth. Not riches, not possessions, but inner sufficiency. A quiet joy that asks for nothing and lacks nothing. How we drift from enough. We're taught that fulfillment comes from having more. But often, it's actually about needing less. Less comparison. Less pressure. Less proving. Less when I finally. Because the constant chase keeps you distracted, disoriented, disconnected from what's already beautiful in your life. And the sad truth? Many people spend their lives climbing a ladder, only to find it was leaning against the wrong wall. Signs you're missing enough. You can't sit still without checking your phone. You feel behind, even when you're doing well. You say, just one more thing, then I'll be happy. You achieve something, and feel empty the next day. That's not ambition. That's exhaustion. That's a signal to come back to center. How to practice enough. 1. Define your own version of enough. In work, in love, in money, in life. Ask, what's truly enough for me, not for the world? 2. Pause at the peak. When you hit a goal, don't rush to the next one. Pause. Acknowledge. Breathe. Celebrate. 3. Name what you already have. Daily gratitude, not just as a list but as a mindset. See clearly how full your life already is. 4. Detach from external scoreboards. Likes, income, titles, they're not the truth. They're not you. You don't need to win the game everyone else is playing. Final reflection. Enough is not settling. It's arriving. It's realizing you are already whole. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are when you stop running. It's quiet. It's powerful. And it's available right now. So take a deep breath. Look around. Feel the weight lift. And say it with me. Out loud or in your heart. This is enough. I am enough. Right here. Right now. You can still grow. You can still dream. But may your peace never again depend on what comes next. If this 8-part journey shifted your perspective, consider sharing it with someone who's still chasing. And remind them, life isn't something we have to conquer. Sometimes, it's something we simply need to see more clearly. Thank you for walking this path with me. And until next time, be still, be awake, be enough.